Most people think enlightenment is a gift. He proved it's a decision. Buddha, a man who sat under a tree and refused to move until he figured it out. Until he understood why people suffer, why we're trapped, why freedom feels impossible. And what he discovered changes everything. Because most people think they're stuck, think their suffering is caused by their circumstances, by their past, by other people, by life itself. But Buddha realized something radical. You're not trapped by your circumstances. You're trapped by your mind. And waking up from that trap is a choice you can make right now. The question is whether you're willing to make it. So let's go back. About 2,500 years ago, northern India. There's a prince named Siddhartha, has everything. Literal palaces. Every comfort, protected from all suffering. Living in a perfect bubble created by his father, who wants him to never experience pain. And it works. For a while, Siddhartha grows up thinking life is good, easy, perfect. Because he's never seen anything else. Never experienced hardship, never witnessed suffering. He's asleep, comfortable, unaware that he's living in an illusion. But then something happens. He leaves the palace, and he sees reality. An old person, a sick person, a dead body, and his perfect world shatters. Because suddenly he realizes everything he has is temporary. Everyone he loves will suffer, including him. The bubble pops, and he can't go back to sleep. This is the first awakening. The uncomfortable one. The one where you realize the comfortable story you've been living is a lie. Where you see that suffering exists and you can't escape it by just having nice things or living in a nice place. That wake-up call. That moment of seeing clearly for the first time. Most people have this moment. They see through something, realize life isn't what they thought. But then they try to go back to sleep. They distract themselves. Find new, comfortable illusions. Build new bubbles. Because waking up is uncomfortable. And staying awake requires facing truths most people would rather avoid. But Siddhartha doesn't go back to sleep. He makes a choice. He's going to figure this out. He's going to understand why we suffer and how to stop. And he's not going to stop until he does. So he leaves everything. The palace. The comfort. The security. His family. Everything, and he goes searching. He tries everything. Becomes an ascetic. Starves himself. Practices extreme discipline. Pushes his body to the edge of death. Thinking maybe suffering through suffering will lead to the end of suffering. But it doesn't work. He's still trapped. Still suffering, just in a different way. He traded comfort for discipline. But he's still not free. Still not awake. Still trapped in his mind. So he sits down under a tree. Exhausted, done trying everything else. And he makes another choice. A bigger one. He's not moving until he figures it out, until he wakes up completely, until he understands the nature of suffering and how to be free from it. He's choosing to wake up right now, no matter what it takes, and that's when it happens. Not through more effort, not through more technique, through seeing, through understanding. Through finally recognizing what was always true but he could unsee while he was trapped in his own thoughts. He sees that suffering isn't caused by life. It's caused by how his mind relates to life. By attachment, by craving, by wanting things to be different than they are. By clinging to what feels good and resisting what feels bad. That's the trap. That's what creates suffering. Not life itself, but the mind's constant fight with life. And in that moment of seeing, he wakes up. Completely, the Buddha. The awakened one. Not because he's special. Not because some divine force chose him. But because he chose to wake up. And kept choosing it. Until he finally saw clearly. He said, "No one saves us but ourselves. No one can and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path. That's the truth. That's what people don't want to hear. Nobody's coming to wake you up. Nobody can do it for you. You're asleep in your own mind. And only you can choose to wake up. It's a choice, a decision, and it's available right now. But most people won't make it, because waking up is uncomfortable. It means seeing things you've been avoiding, facing truths you've been denying, letting go of comfortable illusions, recognizing that most of your suffering is self-created, and that's hard, much harder than staying asleep and blaming circumstances. But Buddha proved it's possible, that you can wake up, right where you are, right now. Not by changing your circumstances, not by getting more, not by becoming someone different, just by seeing clearly, by choosing to stop fighting reality, by choosing to let go of the mental patterns that create your suffering. Now, let's make this real. Because you're asleep right now, not completely, but partially. You're trapped in patterns of thinking that create suffering, and you can choose to wake up from them right now. If you're willing, think about what you're suffering about. Really think. Is it the situation itself? Or is it your thoughts about the situation? Your need for it to be different? Your resistance to what actually is? Your attachment to how it should be? Buddha would say it's the second one. Always. The situation is just the situation. Neutral. It's your mind adding suffering on top of it. Your thoughts creating the pain. Your resistance making it worse. And you can stop. Not by changing the situation. By waking up to how you're creating your own suffering. Someone treats you badly. That's the situation. But the suffering that comes from your thoughts. Your story about what it means. Your need for them to be different. Your resistance to who they actually are. And you can let that go. You can choose to see clearly instead of being trapped in the story your mind is telling. Or you're stressed about money. The actual situation is just numbers, facts, reality. But the suffering, that's your mind catastrophizing, imagining worst cases, creating fear about futures that don't exist yet. And you can wake up from that, choose to be present with what actually is, instead of being trapped in what might be. This is what awakening means. Not some mystical state. Just seeing clearly, recognizing when your mind is creating suffering, and choosing to stop. Choosing to be present with what is, instead of fighting it. Choosing to let go, instead of clinging. That's the choice. That's what Buddha discovered under that tree. But here's the hard part. You have to keep choosing it. Because your mind has been asleep for so long, running the same patterns for so many years, that waking up once isn't enough. You wake up, then you fall back asleep, then you wake up again, over and over, until staying awake becomes your default instead of staying asleep. Buddha called this practice, not practice to become awakened, practice to stay awakened, to keep choosing to see clearly instead of getting lost in the mind's stories and reactions and patterns, to keep choosing presence instead of being trapped in past or future, to keep choosing freedom instead of suffering. And anybody can do this. You don't need to be special, don't need perfect circumstances, don't need years of training. You just need to be willing. Willing to see clearly. Willing to let go. Willing to stop fighting reality. Willing to wake up. Think about, right now, this moment. Not yesterday. Not tomorrow. Just now. Are you suffering? If yes, why? What are you resisting? What are you clinging to? What story is your mind telling that's creating pain? And can you let it go? Can you choose to be present with what actually is, instead of being trapped in what you wish was or fear might be? That's the choice. That's what awakening looks like in practice. not some dramatic enlightenment experience. Just choosing to see clearly, moment by moment, situation by situation, thought by thought, choosing freedom over suffering, presence over mental prison. Buddha spent the rest of his life teaching this, not because people needed complex philosophy, but because people needed permission. Permission to wake up, permission to let go, permission to stop suffering, and he gave it. He said, it's possible. It's a choice, and you can make it right now. Most people won't. They'll stay asleep, keep blaming circumstances, keep thinking their suffering is caused by life instead of by their mind's relationship with life. Keep waiting for circumstances to change instead of choosing to wake up right where they are. But you can be different. You can choose what Buddha chose. To wake up, to see clearly, to stop creating your own suffering. To be free, not someday, not when circumstances are better. Right now, in this moment, with exactly what you have, exactly where you are. That's the power of awakening. It's not waiting for you somewhere else. It's right here, right now. Available the moment you choose it. The moment you decide to see clearly instead of staying trapped in the stories your mind tells. The moment you choose presence over resistance, freedom over suffering. Buddha proved it's possible, lived it, taught it, and left it here for anyone brave enough to make the choice. The question isn't whether you can wake up. You can. The question is whether you will. Whether you're willing to see what you've been avoiding, let go of what you've been clinging to. Stop fighting what you can't change. That's the choice. That's what awakening is. And it's waiting for you right now. Not as some distant goal. As an immediate possibility. As a decision you can make in this moment. To wake up. To see clearly. To be free. Subscribe for more truths that wake you up from comfortable illusions.